The Blood of the Ancestors, Book 1. Chapter 1. Data doesn't lie. Los Angeles, present day. The hum of downtown Los Angeles was its own kind of prayer. Endless, electric, indifferent. It started in the sub-basements where the fiber trunks slept, rose through the concrete arteries of Figueroa, spilled out of the glass towers in blue-white light that never quite became dawn. By the time it reached the 23rd floor of the Helix building, the hum had learned how to sound like money. Nia Mensah sat inside that hum the way a monk sits inside silence. 3 monitors curved around her like altars. A 4th floated on an articulated arm above her keyboard, so she could watch waveforms while she typed. The room was cold on purpose. Servers hated heat, and the air tasted faintly of ozone and the bergamot oil she rubbed into her wrist when the migraines threatened. Her hair was wrapped high tonight in indigo Ankara, the pattern her grandmother had called Sankofa sky. Copper bangles climbed her left forearm, quiet until she moved, then chiming like distant bells. On the center screen, raw data poured upward in endless columns. Location pings, biometric noise, emotional sentiment scraped from 100 million wearables. Her job was to find the anomalies, tag them, send them upstairs so someone with a 7-figure bonus could sell serenity back to the anxious. She had stopped believing in the product 6 months ago. She had not stopped believing in the patterns. Tonight, the patterns were singing in Twi. It began as a single line flickering between hexadecimal strings. Soro neasase, heaven and earth. She blinked. The characters held. Not a rendering glitch. The font was perfect, nostalgic. The exact glyphs that her father had used on his old Nokia before the schizophrenia swallowed him whole. Nia leaned forward, elbows on the desk, pulse already climbing. 62 beats per minute and rising.
Okay.
She whispered to the empty office.
Who's messing with the data set?
She isolated the string, traced it back through 7 proxy hops, and found nothing. No injection point, no artifact. The phrase had simply manifested. The air conditioning kicked on with the shudder, as if the building itself had taken a breath. Her earbuds, cheap wireless ones she bought because the wire pair kept tangling in her locks and driving her to the edge, crackled. Not static, a voice. Male, old, layered, like 4 generations speaking at once. Abina Nia, her childhood name, the one her father had used when he thought no one was listening, when he sat on the fire escape talking to the sky in Twi, telling his stories about a desert that swallowed his grandfather whole. Nia ripped the buds out. The voice stopped. The hum in her chest did not. She stood so fast her chair rolled back and struck the glass wall. Downtown glittered below her, oblivious. A helicopter crawled across the skyline like a red firefly. Somewhere 23 floors down, someone was paying $32 for a cocktail that tasted like marketing. Her smartwatch vibrated against her wrist. Not alone. Then, mirrored, backward. Enola tone Resu. Then nothing. Nia laughed once. The laugh of a woman who had spent her entire adult life proving the world was logical and was now being trolled by the universe in her father's handwriting. She sat again. Breathe, Mensah. You're tired. You skipped dinner. You're projecting. She opened the deepest log she had clearance for. One file glowed where it should not have existed. E. Mensah, 1907. exp.tar.gz. Size, 0 bytes. Yet somehow 4.7 gigabytes when decrypted. Her finger hovered over the enter key the way her grandmothers had once hovered over a Bible before swearing an oath. She pressed it. The screen went black. Then grainy photographs unfolded like memories someone else had stored in her cloud. Men in Edwardian khaki, faces burned dark by a sun that did not yet know Los Angeles. Canvas tents whipping in wind that looked hot enough to scald. And in the center of every frame, one man, tall, locks just beginning, beard trimmed close, eyes that looked straight through the camera, through time, through her. Dr. Elijah Mensah, capped the discovery of a lifetime. Date stamp, September 17th, 1907. Location, Fazan, Libyan desert. In the final photograph, his hand rested on an obsidian tablet the size of a torso. The carving was unmistakable, Sankofa, but moving. Even in the still image, she could feel it turning, bird looking back while stepping forward. Nia's mouth went dry. She had never seen this man before in her life, and she had seen him every day of it. Every time she looked in the mirror and caught the angle of her own cheekbones, the set of her shoulders when she was concentrating too hard, the way her left eyebrow arched when she was about to lie. The lights in the office dimmed to amber, as if the building had decided to join the seance. Her reflection in the dark monitor glowed faintly around the edges. Not the blue of the screen. Gold. Old gold. Desert gold. The hum moved from her chest to her teeth. She opened the voice memo app on her phone without thinking and spoke into it the way her father used to speak into the dark.
Who are you?
The app answered before she stopped recording. A man's voice played back through the tiny speaker.
I'm the reason your father heard voices in Bluetooth that wasn't turned on. I'm the reason you dream in a language you never learned. I'm the reason the code keeps trying to go home. Abenania.
The recording ended. Her heartbeat filled the room like a drum line learning a new rhythm. She stood again, slower this time, walked to the window, pressed her palm to the glass. Far below, the city's traffic lights changed in perfect sequence. Green, yellow, red, green. Like blood moving through veins that had forgotten they were supposed to be concrete. Her phone buzzed on the desk. Unknown number. Louisiana area code. She answered without speaking. A woman's voice rolled through the line, slow and warm as black coffee.
Miss Mensah, you still there, Cher?
Nia found her voice.
Wait, how do you know my name?
I know a lot of things. Like how your daddy used to sit on that fire escape in South Central, talking to somebody who wasn't there. Like how you been feeling that hum in your bones since you were 9. Like how the desert just sent you a postcard 118 years late.
Silence stretched between them, filled only by the soft sound of wind chimes that shouldn't have been on a 23rd floor balcony.
Who is this?
Name's Rosemary. I keep a little shop in the quarter, Rue Dumas Botanica. Your ancestor left a key here with your name on it. True name, not the one on your birth certificate. You feeling brave enough to come claim it?
Nia looked at the photograph, still frozen on her center screen. Elijah Mensah, hand on the tablet, eyes already dissolving into light. She thought of her father's last night, how he had smiled at the ceiling and said,
"He's coming home soon, Nia. The blood remembers."
She thought of the way her mother had burned every photograph after the funeral, as if grief could be firewalled. She thought of the way Data never lied, only waited.
I'll be there.
She said. Rosemary's laugh was low, satisfied, the sound of a river that had finally been asked his name.
Good. Bring that hum with you. It's louder than you think.
The line went dead. Nia stood at the window a long time. The city kept breathing beneath her, but now she could hear the older rhythm underneath, the one that had crossed oceans in the dark, survived auctions and auctions of memory, waited in blood and cold and desert stone for the sixth daughter to say yes. Her smartwatch blinked gold one last time, then settled. Heart rate, 111 beats per minute. Steady, certain, ready. She closed the office lights with her phone, gathered her laptop like it was scripture, and walked toward the elevator. Behind her, the monitors dimmed to black, but the afterimage of Sankofa stayed burned into the glass for minutes after she was gone. The hum followed her all the way to the parking garage, down a spiral ramp, out into the Los Angeles night that suddenly felt too small for what it was carrying. By the time she merged onto the 10 East, the first notes of thunder were already rolling in from somewhere older than weather. The blood remembered, and it was driving south. But before the road, before New Orleans, before any of it, there was the long night she spent driving in circles around Los Angeles because she was too wired to sleep and too terrified to stop moving. She drove with the windows down, letting the city's hot breath slap her awake. Past the oil derricks nodding like praying mantises in Baldwin Hills. Past the 24-hour laundromats where old Filipino women folded memories into perfect squares. Past the church on Crenshaw where the choir rehearsal leaked gospel into the street like contraband joy. Every red light felt like judgment. Every green light felt like permission she hadn't earned. At 3:17 a.m., she parked outside the house she grew up in. A stucco box in View Park with bars on the windows and bougainvillea that had outlived her father's sanity. The porch light was still burned out. Her mother had never replaced it after the funeral. Nia sat in the car for a long time, engine off, radio whispering low. A song her father used to play, O.C. Bisa, horns bright enough to cut glass. She could almost see him on the fire escape, barefoot, rocking to the rhythm, arguing with the sky in Twi. She got out. The gate squeaked the same note it had squeaked when she was 7, and sneaking out to meet friends who didn't yet know how to pronounce her name right. Inside, the key still worked. The house smelled like dust and old grief and the particular sweetness of the lemon tree that had refused to die even after her mother stopped watering it. She walked straight to her father's study. The room was exactly as he'd left it. Books stacked like levees against the coming flood. Yellow legal pads covered in frantic handwriting. Walls papered with printouts of star charts and Sankofa symbols, and grocery lists in the same manic scrawl. On the desk sat the last thing he'd been working on before they took him away. A child's Bluetooth headset, cracked open, wires exposed like veins. A Post-it note stuck to the plastic.
They speak through the static. Tell Nia the blood remembers.
She picked it up. The plastic was warm. Not room temperature warm, body warm. The hum in her chest answered, loud enough that her ribs vibrated. For the first time since the funeral, Nia cried. Not polite tears, the ugly, snot-nosed, throat-raw kind that leave you hollowed out and strangely clean. She cried for the father who had seen too much and been believed too little. She cried for the mother who had chosen silence over stories. She cried for the little girl who had learned to translate her father's episodes into mental health days so the white teachers wouldn't call CPS again. When the tears finally slowed, the room was lighter. Not dawn, just a particular gray that comes before forgiveness. She wiped her face on her sleeve, put the broken headset in her pocket, and walked out without looking back. The lemon tree dropped one ripe fruit at her feet as she passed, like payment for finally listening. She picked it up, pressed it to her nose, and inhaled childhood in one bright, brutal breath. Then she got back in the car and pointed it east. By the time she crossed the Arizona state line, the hum had settled into a steady 4/4 beat behind her sternum. She was still terrified, but for the first time in her life, the terror had company, and the blood remembered. It always would.
The blood grew river, it drowned